Hello mga kasangga! Good day to all of us! Kumusta? I hope you're all doing well and doing great as I have so many things in store for you. Welcome to another new day of deepening and broadening our skills, abilities, and knowledge about the introduction to the philosophy of the human person. So before we formally begin with our new lesson today, with regard to the tracing the origin of philosophy and the Pre-Socratics and Socrates, allow me first to introduce to you the learning objectives that you should be able to learn after this lesson. So our first objective is to trace the historical origin of philosophy and of course to explain the contributions of early philosophers. To formally begin to explore our new lesson today, let's take first a closer look with regard to these illustrations. So, what is your idea about these illustrations? Are you familiar with these illustrations? Or do we have any symbolism about this? If we will try to look and analyze into a deeper context with regard to these illustrations, it's really difficult to deny the fact that they have symbolisms to the nature of philosophy. We have fire, the water, and the mathematical explanations when it comes to the existence, principles, perspectives, and other standpoints or even reasons about the meaning of life, in which it is actually claimed by the different Pre-Socratic philosophers. In this instance, these illustrations have varied explanations regarding their reasons and other principles of their existence and how their existence influence us in our life. As we can see, they have different to each other literally and figuratively, as also explained by the different thoughts of the Pre-Socratic philosophers that we need to discuss for today, which pertains about the three Pre-Socratic philosophers. For this lesson, we will talk about the Pre-Socratic philosophers, but before that, I have a simple question about this lesson. And the question is, what is your idea about these Pre-Socratic philosophers? When we say about these Pre-Socratic philosophers, or when we read these Pre-Socratic philosophers, what comes in your mind? Now, in order to make us more knowledgeable enough with regard to these Pre-Socratic philosophers, let's talk about its description. The Pre-Socratic philosophers are defined as the Greek thinkers who are developed, independent, and original schools of thought. The Pre-Socratics are interested in a wide variety of topics, especially in what now we think of as natural science rather than philosophy. These early thinkers often sought naturalistic explanations and causes for physical phenomena. In this regard, the Pre-Socratic thinkers delighted at their surroundings and made an effort to explain them in their own unique ways. They exposed the enduring philosophical issues such as the nature of the one and the many and the fundamental principles underlying all things through their observations. Our advanced minds may find their responses unsatisfactory or perhaps dumb, but they laid out the foundation for a profound philosophy that we may know, understand, and apply in our lives. So, in order to make us more enlightened with regard to these Pre-Socratic philosophers, let's talk them one by one. So let's start with Thales. Are you familiar about him? Or are you aware regarding his contributions about philosophy? If not, just sit back, relax, and of course, let's expose ourselves when it comes to his claims and his principles about the existence of life. As a matter of fact, Thales existed during 624 to 546 BCE. Moreover, he is also considered as the father of Western philosophy and is regarded as one of the 7 ages or the wise men of ancient Greece. Furthermore, he claimed that there is one single substance that comprises everything, and that substance is water. In this regard, Thales believed that all things in the material universe are variations of water. This belief came up as a result of his search for an all-encompassing oneness. Additionally, he had the fairly strange belief that the earth floated on water. which was another pre-existing Egyptian belief. And that idea held that water could assume a variety of shapes and that it was even capable of changing into everything we see in the tangible world. As a matter of fact, Aristotle claimed that Thales propagated two major philosophical ideas. Essentially, the fundamental absolute principle is water, and the second, the soul is its principal motor. Thales concluded that the water is the first absolute principle, and in what manner? Of course, when Aristotle offered the following explanation in addition to the simple fact that Thales lived in a region that was practically surrounded by water, Thales got this notion perhaps from seeing that the nutriment of all things is moist, and that heat itself is generated from the moist and kept alive by it, and that from which they come to be a principle of all things. Though the explanation may seem straightforward to our intellectual minds, his objective was to give logical account on the principle of things. He obtained his thought from the fact that the seeds of all things have a moist nature, and that water is the beginning of the nature of the moist things. Aside from Thales as one of the pre-Socratic philosophers, we also have Pythagoras. Are you still familiar about him? Or did you still remember about his famous mathematical principle? If not, stay tuned and let's talk about him. Pythagoras existed during 570 to 495 BCE. He treated philosophy as a way of life and gave emphasis on contemplation. In contemplation, this is the world's base definition in both Latin and Greek is, which means speculative study or admiration of beauty or even the consideration of wisdom. Or in general, it is a sort of knowledge known as contemplation as one that is accompanied by pleasure and a certain amount of admiration for the object being contemplated. Moreover, he also believed in reincarnation. So when we say reincarnation, this has something to do with the religion or the philosophical idea that following a biological death, the soul or the spirit starts a new life in a new body, which may be human, animal, or spiritual, or even depending on the morality of the deeds committed in the previous life. Aside from reincarnation, he also made important contributions to the field of mathematics, which is one of his most famous contribution, particularly with the Pythagorean theorem. Meaning to say, the most significant philosophical insight from Pythagoras was that the most basic explanations had nothing to do with stuff or matter, but rather with abstract form. Because we are talking about Pythagorean theorem. And this was an extremely important choice, and Plato would have to consider the ramification in great depth. Okay, and as we shall see, the opposition between matter and form and the key significance of mathematical form are fundamental concepts in modern physics. Now, aside from Pythagoras and Thales, we also have Heraclitus. Do you have any idea about this person? Are you aware about these principles? If not, just sit back, relax, and of course stay tuned for the further details for this lesson. And now, let's welcome Heraclitus. Okay, Heraclitus, as a matter of fact, he existed during 535 to 475 BCE. He claimed that everything is changing, and he believed that the only permanent in this world is change. And in addition, he also used fire to emphasize this idea of change. In line with this, Heraclitus asserted that everything changes. As Plato attested, Heraclitus says that somewhere that all things change and that nothing is at rest. This is one of the original contributions of Heraclitus to the history of pre-Socratic thought. As a matter of fact, Heraclitus had plenty of time to consider the natural world here. He noticed how the natural world is always changing. Like Heraclitus, he observed that cold may probably to be hot, the hot stuffs or material becomes cool, or the wet things gradually dries out, or even the parched things possibly moistens. Or in this instance, every aspect of life is continually morphing, evolving, and even becoming something different from how it was before. And that has something to do with the perspective of Heraclitus during his pre-Socratic philosophy. However, before we formally end this discussion, let's have first this last slide, which pertains about this question: what are your takeaways for this lesson? To sum it up, again, as I have said earlier, the pre-Socratic thinkers delighted at their surrounding and made an effort to explain in their own unique ways. They expected the enduring philosophical issues such as the nature of the one and the many, and the fundamental principles underlying all things through their observations. Our advanced mind may find the responses unsatisfactory or perhaps dumb, but they laid out the foundation for a profound philosophy that we may know now, and of course to understand and apply in our significant daily lives. And that is the end of our lesson today. So I hope you've learned a lot for today's video, and of course for more updates or more educational videos with regard to social sciences, particularly with our philosophy subject, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more lessons. Thank you very much for watching. Bye my dear students. Bye.